Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deborah Awang and I'm delighted to have every one of you here. In today's video, I'll be drafting the basic bodies. I actually have a request to do that, to draft the basic bodies both front and back on the same pattern paper. And so I decided to share it here with you guys. I want to say a very big thank you to all of my subscribers. You guys are wonderful. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And if you're new to my channel and you're yet to subscribe, please hit on the subscribe button. It's actually free to subscribe. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you get notified each time I upload a new video. So today we'll be drafting the basic bodies, like I said, both the front and the back on the same pattern paper. So without wasting much time, let's get to work. Okay guys, these are the tools we'll be working with. I have my pattern paper right here and I have this. It's like a compass. I have a video where I show how to make one of these, so I'll drop the link in the description box. Do well to watch it. And this right here is a transparent paper. To make one of these is very easy. Just get oil, machine oil, and rub it on a sheet of paper. It will be transparent like this. So I have my measurements I'll be working with, and of course I have my tape measure. I have my pencil, and I also have my curve ruler, popularly known as the French curve. I have my eraser, and I have this push pin. And finally, this is our straight ruler. So let's get started. So guys, the first thing we need to do is to mark all of our vertical measurements, and we'll be starting with our nape to bust point or shoulder to bust point. They actually mean the same thing. And from my measurement here, we have 10 inches. And then we'll go to the nape to waist at 16 inches. Remember, we have our nape to waist for front and for back. So we'll be marking that of the front, 16 inches. And then the next thing is our nape to hip, 25 inches. And finally, our nape to knee, 35 inches. I want a straight line, so I'll have to repeat the same process again. Our nape to bust point as 10 inches. Nape to waist for front as 16 inches. And our nape to hip, mark 25 inches. And our nape to knee is 35 inches. So with our straight ruler, we'll draw a straight line. Connect all the dots together. So let's write, this is our bust line, and this line is our waist line. And this is our hip line, and finally our knee line. So we'll be starting with our back bodies, our back block. So the next thing to do is to determine our waist, our nape to waist for back. And we have 15 inches. Guys, on how to take accurate measurements, I have a video where I teach how to take accurate measurements. So please do well to watch it. And our nape to waist for back here, we have 15 inches. So I'll repeat the same thing again because I want a straight line. I'll mark 15 inches. See the way I place my tape? That's how you should place your tape, backwards. And with the straight side of our ruler, we'll rule a straight line here. So it's on this line we are going to mark our shoulder measurements. And for my measurements here, we have 15 inches as our shoulder measurement. And when you divide it by 2, you have 7 inches. So you mark 7 inches here. I'm repeating the same process again because I want a straight line. So using the straight side of your ruler, just draw a straight line like this. And the next step, we are going to mark our shoulder seam. From my measurement here, we have 5 inches as our shoulder seam. You mark it like this. So we have 5 inches. Mark 5 inches here. And for the neck depth, we'll go down by 1 inch. Please guys, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It's actually free to subscribe. So just click on the subscribe button, like and share. Don't forget to leave a comment as well in the comment section. So for the shoulder slope here, you go down by 1 inch. And then you draw your lines like this. So we'll mark or measure whatever we have left from the shoulder slope to the bust point. We have 8 inches here, and you divide it by 2, you have 4 inches rather. So you mark 4 inches here and draw a straight line. So it's on this line we are going to impute our shoulder 2 measurement or chest width measurement. Let's write it here. This line is our chest width line or shoulder 2 line. And for our shoulder 2 measurement, we have for both front and back. So since we are working on the back bodice, we are going to impute the back chest width or shoulder 2 measurement here. And for my measurement, the shoulder 2 measurement or chest width measurement is 14 inches. So we'll divide it by 2 and we'll have 7 inches. So we'll mark 7 inches here as our chest width measurement or shoulder 2 measurement. So we'll mark 7 inches here and connect it to the shoulder tip or to the shoulder slope. So the next step is to go to our bust line. So our bust circumference is 34 inches, and when you divide it by 4, you have 8.05 or 8.5. So, but I will not be marking the 8.5 inches. I will be marking 8 inches instead. The half inches, we'll add it to the bust circumference when we are drafting our front bodice. So we'll add the half inch to the front. Then here we are going to mark 8 inches as the back circumference, bust circumference here for the back instead of 8.5. So we'll use 8 inches like this. So before we'll be marking our waist circumference here, we'll need to minus or subtract half inches here first and connect it to the bust line like this. See? So now we are going to input our waist circumference, and we have 26 inches as our waist circumference. When you divide it by 4, we'll have 6.5, 6.5 inches. So we'll have 6.5 here as our waist circumference. And the next thing, we need to mark our dart intake. Let me write it here, dart intake. So determine if we are going to use 1 inch or 1.5 inches as our dart. We need to do a little calculation. So let's go to our board. And right here we have the dart intake. So we want to know if we are going to use 1.5 inches as our dart or 1 inch. It's very easy, guys, very simple. So the formula is bust minus waist plus hip minus waist divided by 2. And the measurements I'm working with, we have our bust circumference as 34 inches minus 26 inches as our waist circumference, plus our hip measurement is 40 inches minus 26 inches for the waist, then divided by 2. So 34 minus 26 will have 8 inches. Then 40 minus 26 will have 14 divided by 2. So when you add these two together, you have 22 inches divided by 2, and that will give us 11 inches. So we can see here that this 11 inches is greater than 10 inches. So, and the formula states that when whatever we have after doing this little calculation, if it's greater than 10 inches, we are going to use 1.5 inches as our dart intake. But assuming the answer we got is less than 10, we are going to use 1 inch as our dart intake. But since what we have here is 11 inches and it's greater than 10, we are going to mark 1.5 or 1.5 inch as our dart. So 1.5 inch becomes the dart intake for this pattern. So we'll connect the line back here to the bust line like this. The next step for us now is to mark our side seam, and we have 6.025 or 6 1/4 or 6 1/4 as our side seam, and then with the curved side of our ruler we connect the lines here. So we'll go and check it if we have 17 inches as our arm side. Our arm side is 17 inches. When you divide it by 2, it's 8.5. Yes, I have 8.5. So the next step now is for us to go to our hip line. Our hip circumference is 40 inches, and when you divide that by 4, you have 10 inches. But I will not be marking 10 inches. I'll add ½ inch to it. I'll use 10.5 instead of 10 inches. This ½ inch that I'm adding here, I'm going to remove it from the front hip measurement. So you go up by 1 inch here on this 10.5 inch I will just mark, and then come down again by 1 here. You see, 1 inch. So you go up by 1 inch, come down by 1 inch, and use the straight side of your ruler to connect the lines like this. Then using the curved side of your ruler, you connect your hip line to your waist line like this. So we have 10.5 inches as our hip measurement. So whatever we have on this hip side, we bring it down to the knee line. So I'm marking 10.5 inches here on the knee line, then connect it to the hip line like this. Then on this hip line, you go in by 1 inch on this side, and then you connect this line to this other point. You remember we came down here by 1 inch, yes? So we are going to connect the lines from this point to this other point with our straight side of our ruler. So on this side of the pattern, the center back of the waist side, you come down here by 2 inches, and then exactly where you mark 2 inches, you go in by ½ inch and connect the lines with your straight ruler. Draw a straight line. Then on the hip line here, you go up by 2 inches, and then use the straight side of your ruler to draw a line like this. So the next thing we will need to do is to make our darts, work on the darts. And my bust span here, we have 3.5 inches. When you add ½ inch to it, you have 4 inches. So you mark 4 inches here. I want a straight line, so I'll repeat the same thing here. You mark 4 inches here too on the waistline, and you mark 4 inches on the hip line. Then with the straight side of your ruler, you connect all the dots together. We are working on the dart now. So on this side of the hip line, you go up by 2 inches. Then remember, our dart intake is 1.5, so or 1.5 inches. So we are going to divide that 1.5 inch here on either side. So we will mark 0.75 here and 0.75 on the other side. So mark 0.75 here and 0.75 here. Then we'll come down here by 2 inches. Then we'll do the same thing again, mark 0.75 on either side. Then use the straight side of your ruler to connect the lines like this. So guys, if you find this video very helpful, please hit on the subscribe button. Subscribe to my channel for more videos. Don't forget to share, like, and leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you so very much to all of my subscribers. So this is how we've come to the end of our back bodice. Let's write it here. There's the back. So we'll be moving to the front block. So for the front, the first thing we will need to do is to mark our shoulder measurement. I'll be starting up here. We have 15 inches as our shoulder measurements. When you divide it by 2, you have 7.5. So mark 7.5. I want a straight line. I'll be repeating it to 7.5. So you see the same shoulder measurements we use for the back that we'll use for the front. So see the same measurements we are working with. So have 7.5 here. On the straight side of your ruler, you draw a straight line to connect all the dots. Like this. The next thing we will need to do is to mark our shoulder seam. Height 5 inches as our shoulder seam. I'll mark it here. And for the neck depth for the front block, it's 3 inches. So we'll come down here by 3 inches. So this is our front neck. And then on this side, we'll mark 1 inch as our shoulder slope. Let's draw our neckline. Now remember, we used 4 inches here. We marked 4 inches when we added our shoulder slope, whatever we have left at our shoulder slope to the bust point. We divided it by 2. We have 4. So we are going to use the same 4 inches here for the front chest width line or shoulder 2 line. So the same thing we use for the whole, we are going to use here for the front. So mark 4 inches here. Then our shoulder 2 measurements for the front is 13 inches. When you divide it by 2, you have 6.5 inches. Then you connect it to the shoulder tip like this. Now our bust circumference for the front, remember it's 34 inches divided by 4. we'll have 8.5, but we are not going to be using the 8.5 inches because we removed half from the back. So that half we removed from the back, we are going to add it here. So we are going to use 9 inches instead. So let's go to our waist circumference. Our waist circumference is 26 divided by 4, we'll have 6.5. And then we'll add 1.5 as our dart intake, 1.5 inches as our dart intake. Then we'll connect the lines. Connect the line to post line. So the side seam we use for the back was 6.025, that is 6 1/4. We'll do the same thing here for our front side seam. We'll mark and we'll label it as point A. Then from this point A, go down by 1 inch and label it as point B. I hope you can see it clearly. This is A and this is B. Then our bust is 7 inches divided by 2, we'll have 3.5. So we'll mark the 3.5 here and label it as point C. So with the straight side of our ruler, we'll draw a straight line here connecting point A to point C, and we'll connect the point B to point C like this. So we'll come back to this bust lighter. Let's go to the hip joint. Our hip circumference is 40 inches divided by 4, we'll have 10. So remember we added half an inch to the back hip measurement. So that half we add to the back hip measurement, we are going to remove it from the front hip measurement. So we'll be marking 9.5 inches instead of 10. Then you go up here on that point by 1 inch rather, sorry, and then you come down by 1 inch. Then with the straight side of our ruler, you connect the lines. You draw a straight line connecting all the dots. Then we'll use the curved side of the ruler to connect the hip to the waist. So we'll have 9.5 inches here on the hip. We are going to mark the same thing on the knee line here. We'll mark 9.5 inch here. And then connect with the straight ruler to the hip line. Then on this knee line, you go in by 1 inch. Remember we came down here by 1 inch, then we'll connect it to that of the knee like this. So guys, the next thing we'll need to do is to work on the armscye. For the front bodice, the front armscye is usually bigger than that of the back, and our armscye is 17 inches. When you divide it by 2, is 8.5 inches. So using this my transparent paper, we are going to reduce this front armscye. Oh, don't mind me, this is my paper, this transparent paper, I've used it before, that's why it's looking rough. So the transparent paper helped me to see through. So if you place your paper like this, you'll be seeing all our lines on the pattern paper like this. Let me just erase this part. So sorry guys, I've used this my transparent paper before. So let's just clip. Okay, so you place the paper. It helps us to see all our lines on the main pattern paper. I don't want to work on directly on the pattern paper because it will make it look rough. That's why I'm using this transparent paper. So I can see clearly all the points. This is A, point B, and point C. Then using our push pin, I want to use the push to hold down the point C because I don't want it to be moving, because I'll be moving the paper upward. So I want the point C not to move along with it. That's why I'm using the push pin to hold it. So now what we'll do is, these are point A and point B. We are going to drag it and move it forward like this. So as it means we are moving or reducing the arm's eye because it's too big and we need 8.5 inches as our arm's eye. So we move it like this. So guys, feel free to watch this part over and over again until you master it. It's not difficult. So the transparent paper helps us to see through our main pattern paper. When you place this paper on it, you'll be seeing your lines on the pattern paper. So I can see our chest width measurement here. I've put a mark on it. Then let me draw the lines. I want to check now if I have 8.5 inches. So let's draw the line. Connect this point now to the point A on the transparent paper. Then with our tape measure, let's see if I have 8.5 inches. Oh, it's 7.5 inches. So I'm going to move it downwards a little and do the same thing again. Repeat the same steps again. So this is what you keep doing until you get the accurate measurements you're looking for. So I'll use my tape measure to check again if I have 8.5. Oh, it's 8 inches now. So I'll move it down a little like this and I'll check again. What I need is 8.5 inches. Don't mind my transparent paper, it's looking rough. That's because I've used it before. So I'm sorry about that. I'm supposed to use a new one. So let's check if I have 8.5 inch now. Take note of lines that I'm measuring now. It's the recent one that I marked. Oh, I have 8.5 inches now. So I've gotten what I'm looking for. So using this my push pin, I'll make a dot on the point A and point B in such a way that it will appear on my main pattern paper. Yes, so I'll use my pencil. See the point A and the point B here. This is the new point A and the new point B. So you draw your arm's eye from the chest width point to the point A. And use this straight side of your ruler to connect it to point B. So this point A becomes the new point A. Can you see we've dragged that old point A forward? So using our straight side of our ruler, we'll connect the point B to point C like this. So when we are working on our pattern, guys, we'll close this dot like this. Or when you're making your outfit, you will close this dot like this. So we'll have something like this. Can you see, guys? So we'll close the excess we have there. So now it's time for us to draw our dots. So we'll have 3.5. I'll just mark 3.5 on the waist and on the hip. they will connect all the dots together to that of the bust point where I marked C. So draw a straight line like this. Our bust span is 7 inches. When you divide it by 2, you have 3.5. So that's why we're using 3.5 inches here. So remember, our dart intake is 1.5 inches, and then we will divide it by 2 and share it here on each side. So mark 0.75 on one side and 0.75 on the side. And then with our straight side of our ruler, we connect all the dots. Draw a straight line like this. And on this hip line, you go up by 2 inches like this, and then you connect the lines. So it's easy, guys. It's very easy. So you have your darts for the front bodice. So guys, you have your full front bodies and your back bodies. So this is how we've come to the end of today's video. If you find this video very helpful, please hit on the subscribe button, like, share, and leave a comment in the comment section. I love you guys. See you guys in my next video. Bye.